Hello, everyone. It's me, Amy, the official Vancouver correspondent for Hackathon 2020, and I am here with the awesome Evan Digby. Say hi, Evan.
Hi.
Hi. So I want to talk to you about one of the hackathon projects you have in Hackbox. So we were looking through Hackbox for some, interesting projects, and yours caught our eye because it's a hack for good. It's called, correct me if I'm wrong, Pericardiocentesis Ultrasound Phantom. Yes? Okay,
correct.
that's a very long name. But can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
So an ultrasound phantom is essentially something that acts like human flesh, essentially, so that you can practice doing an ultrasound on it. And a pericardiocentesis is a procedure, it's a life-saving procedure that is extremely difficult to train for and also extremely difficult to do. So what doctors, surgeons, people in the ER are learning is that they essentially have to learn on the fly how to do this procedure, and it involves taking a needle. Content warning a bit, this is going to be a bit graphic, but taking a needle, injecting it through the chest cavity towards the heart, and you have to get within a few millimeters of the heart without puncturing the heart with this giant needle so that you can drain some fluid. It's very difficult, and the only way to practice right now that's even remotely accurate is on a human who's in the middle of a crisis.
Oh my God.
Not ideal.
That must be really, have you heard doctors say things about having anxiety about doing that kind of stuff in the moment? That must be really scary.
Absolutely. The customer we're working with, they express anxiety about the procedure, and they're extremely experienced. So if that type of person might feel that, imagine a new ER doctor coming in on their first shift having to do one of these. Fortunately, it's rare, but also it's dangerous.
Can you tell us a little bit about the group that you're working with?
Yeah, this one, it's pretty exciting. We're working with the Burnaby Hospital Foundation, and specifically with Dr. Neil Long, who's championing this project through the foundation because they want to create a low-cost model that can allow doctors, surgeons across the world to practice this procedure. So they're really excited about it. It will help their doctors, and I'm really excited about it too.
So in terms of that, can you tell us a little bit about how you think what is the plan for how to make this something that people can practice? Do you have any sense of that yet, or is it too early?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's a lot of history about how to make an ultrasound phantom. So how to make something that will act like a human body and allow you to practice something for ultrasound. Oh, one thing I should clarify is that this pericardiocentesis, you can't see inside when you're injecting the needle, so you need an ultrasound to guide the needle in, which is why we need an ultrasound phantom. And there's a lot of existing literature on how to do that. You can use something as simple as gelatin that you would make at home. You can mix it with a few things to thicken it to the right texture. That expires, so you can keep that in the fridge. It lasts about 2 weeks and then it's gone. So in order to use something like that, it has to either be very easy to make, very cheap to make. There are a few models out there that pre-exist. They cost like $3,000, so it's not ideal for a hospital to try to practice on that. So how we actually make it is we will take a model of a heart, a 3D model of a heart. We're going to 3D print that, and then we're going to make a silicone cast. So we can 3D print a heart. It'll be pretty cool. It'll be takes about kind of 6 to 8 hours to print layer by layer in that 3D model. We're going to make a silicone mold out of that, and then we're just going to pour gelatin in it. It's going to be pretty cool. It's something you can do in your kitchen. It's not dangerous. And if we can perfect the procedure and make it work with a 3D printer, then hospitals will be able to do this for very, very cheap. Literally, make one for $30.
Once you have the heart printed or siliconed or molded, all of those things, once you have your little gel heart, are you gonna put it inside? Is the goal to make it like it would be in a real situation, where it would be hidden underneath the skin or something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you may bring up a good point. We don't just mold the heart, but we actually have to mold the whole chest cavity. So another thing we're going to do is 3D print some rib cage. And so kind of a mock rib cage you can put on top of it. And you have to layer up the molds that you do. So we'll mold the heart. That'll be the most accurate, the most detailed. And then we'll just create essentially a gelatin mold that can fill up a chest cavity like thing where you can put the rib cage on and then put some more gelatin in front of it. It's kind of a cool process. You can layer it up that way. And then of course the other component is for pericardiocentesis, you need the actual complication that you're trying to solve, which is a sac of fluid around the heart. And we can use essentially a little bit of silicone or a little bit of gel, and we can have a tube that runs into it. So they can fill that with fluid, go take it out, and then use the tube to refill it, and you can practice over and over again.
My next question, I just want to switch into a little bit about, this hackathon is virtual this year. Like it's the first time in Microsoft we've had a completely virtual hackathon. And so I was just wondering, how has your hacking landscape changed while working remotely? Has your house become your new garage space, or anything like that? Anything that you think about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. My house, my garage has literally become my garage. I have an office here so that I can work on stuff. My 3D printer's right over there. Literally, I can just reach and pick up random electronics and things like that because I have so much around me all the time. Yeah, it's changed a lot. One of the cool things about this project is, in order to test it and to validate it, we actually have to get it to a doctor. So yes, we're virtual, but we have to actually come up with a safe transfer and drop procedure with these doctors so they can take it and they can test it with their ultrasounds to see if the texture is right, if it looks correct, and hopefully by the end of it, they will be able to practice the procedure on something we give them. So it absolutely changes it. Normally you would have them come into the garage, you'd have them come into Microsoft, they'd bring in the ultrasound machine, we'd all get together, we'd hack away, we'd go into our corners, do something, come back together. And in here we have to have like protocols and safe drops, and I do some here, somebody else does something at their place, and then we all come together and safely mix it up. So
yeah, especially because it's like a real thing.
Yeah, if this was software, it'd be easy. I'd email them and they'd test it and it would be great, but it's not software. It's hardware.
So once 1 week is over, do you have any expectations for where this project could go afterwards?
Yeah, so I expect for this hackathon, what we will have is essentially a lump of something that isn't totally accurate, but proves the theory. If we have something that looks good and looks great for the pictures, that would be awesome. But I think we're just going to create essentially a lump. So after this hackathon, whether it's in a future hackathon or simply the foundation carries what we do and takes it with them, is find out the actual step by step to how to make it look accurate, something that's repeatable in a hospital or even ideally a kitchen at home. And so that's really what the output of this is a step-by-step guide that the Burnaby Hospital Foundation wants to open source so that it's free for everyone in the world to use. A step-by-step guide in your kitchen. How can you make a model to practice this life-saving procedure?
Do you think that the component of the project about it being something you could make in your kitchen would have come up if there wasn't a pandemic?
No, I don't think it would. I think that's a really good point, because we do have to make it in our kitchens here, and normally we'd be able to bring in the equipment and get together with I think that's a really good point. I don't think it would have come up this way without the pandemic. I think we'd be more thinking hospital settings. What can you do with the right materials?
I think what's really interesting about that, like needing that pivot, is that I actually think it opens up the accessibility of this to a lot more, like a much broader audience of people, maybe?
Yeah. No, absolutely. If we can keep the cost low and it's simple to produce, the most expensive part of it will be the 3D printer, and my printer costs $300. On the scale of hospital budgets, that's tiny. On the scale of home use, it's maybe a little bit large, but if we can get it so that it's an inexpensive process that's repeatable, people in hospitals all across the world, not just first world countries, but beyond that, will be able to use this and practice this life-saving procedure. The plan right now is I'm going to try to find, maybe at a Value Village or something, an old mannequin and cut a hole in it, and that way we have that. But I think it would be cool, like Mythbusters, they have their test dummy and it has a name.
Yeah.
Maybe we should give this thing a name, and maybe we should model it after somebody. We'll call it an Amy.
Yeah. I mean, just put my name out there in case. Okay, so as you know, the hackathon theme this year is superheroes. So it begs a question. I have to ask it. If this project had a superpower or was a superhero, what superpower would it have? I
think for this one, that's easy. The power they would have is X-ray vision, because that's the goal, is to allow somebody to see inside something and do that procedure.
That was well done. Good answer. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me and chatting about this. The project sounds actually really, really cool. I'll say that spending time with people who are actually a part of the project and like having a dialogue with somebody, it's so much. I learned so much more about what the project actually is, and I think it's really cool. And I really look forward to finding out more about how this all pans out over the course of 1 week. And so with that, I think we have to do our best superhero send-off. Shall we virtual high five?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Can we do it super slow-mo? Yes. Thanks, Evan.
That was awesome. Thank you very much.